Welcome to today's presentation on better labeling workflows for pipe networks in Civil 3D with Label Genie. Label Genie is a tool we have released recently from CTC Software, and we have a lot of other new things coming out on it. Today, I wanted to focus on some of the features around pipe networks. My name is Brian Lewandowski. I'm the Civil Product Manager here at CTC, and I'll be giving the presentation today. Let's touch a little bit on labeling in Civil 3D today, what this is like. For a lot of projects, for a lot of drawings, it's fairly time consuming, and that translates obviously to being quite costly. Most labels require us to point at something and click on it to insert that label. We can certainly copy labels around, but it can be quite time consuming. If we're using AutoCAD fields, we have to populate those manually. And every time we add labels, we have to decide what's our style, what's my layer, what kind of formatting do I want, right? Every single time we have to do this on some level. Now there is some automation there in Civil 3D, but there's still a lot that we repeat the same way over and over, yet we have to kind of specify that every time we insert those types of labels. Now we're focused on pipe networks today. So specific to that, all the parts when we add, there's some decent features in there where you can add and label, say, all your structures in a profile view at one time. But every structure gets the same label style. You do the same in plan, okay? But the problem is that everything gets the same label style, and you can only do it one profile view at a time, right? One network at a time. And it ends up being a fairly tedious process. And because there's so much kind of intricate detail across our pipe networks, be they storm or sanitary or any other system, we end up with quite a few different styles. Some of this is just to differentiate between, say, storm and sanitary or water. Oftentimes it's our own, your own company's kind of branding or style, and how you label that stuff. There's a lot of annotation that goes into labeling these things. We work with AutoCAD annotation like MText, dimensions, and M-liters across all of Civil 3D. And then we have all this Civil 3D specific annotation as well, like line and curves or surface spots, pipe network labels, okay? Now, I've touched on some webcasts in the past about how Label Genie automates a lot of these other label styles. Our focus today is on pipe networks. So what does Label Genie do? What we are attempting to do with it is automate the vast majority of all your labeling across AutoCAD labeling and Civil 3D labeling. So it's all those different label types. It works with your standards, so whatever styles and layers you have set up, Label Genie works with that. It'll label multiple drawings at the same time. And so it's fairly simple to use. If you guys haven't seen it yet, again, we're focusing on pipe networks, but just a brief intro of how Label Genie works. You select a drawing source. Do I want to label the current drawing, multiple drawings? Do I want to limit it to layouts? I choose my label type and my view type. Pipe network labels, that's what we're going to focus on today. Do I want to label in profile or plan? I choose my anchor object. Well, for pipe network labels, obviously we're anchoring to pipe networks. But what if you were creating MText? We can anchor that to dozens of different types of objects. There's a formatting tab. If it's something like MText, that's a very kind of open-ended annotation. We have options to specify, in this example, alignments. We can pull the name from alignments and insert it into MText. And then there's all kinds of stylization and layering and offsets and rotation we could apply to these. Now, AutoCAD annotation is very flexible in that way. Civil 3D annotations, a lot of that stuff is baked into the label style. And in those cases, your options down here will be more trimmed or adjusted according to that label style. Now, specific to pipe network labeling, what does the formatting tab look like? We in fact have a whole separate window that opens that allows you to do label style mapping based on your parts list. This is the key to what we're doing with Label Genie. You're going to be able to take your parts list, assign all these different label styles as though you actually had those extra columns in parts list in the first place, and those label styles will get assigned. You've got it for plan and for profile. So I'm going to show you how that really works. So once you set up those mappings, you run add update labels, and it applies all the labels across one or more drawings. And you can even save all those settings on the formatting tab, on this tab, out to templates, so they can quickly reload this on other drawings or other projects. So with that, let's jump into Civil 3D and let me show you some of these new features in Label Genie for pipe networks. Now what I've got set up here is a small sample project. I've got a storm line and a sanitary line. We've got some existing pipes and structures we're tying into. We have a myriad of manholes, catch basins, be they curb inlets or regular inlets. There is beehive inlets. We've got cleanouts in our sanitary. Okay, a variety of different parts. And depending on the utility type or the structure or pipe type, you often want a different label style. And when we're labeling this stuff, for example, if I use the native tool set here and I open up add pipe network labels, I choose, say for entire network plan, I choose one pipe style and one structure style, and everything gets the same style. But oftentimes I have many different label styles. This is kind of a sampling here. I imagine you guys have quite a few more label styles even than this. And similar thing for profile views. We can label an entire profile, but again, we only get to assign the same style at once. Now, all of our parts come from parts lists that we have built out in our templates. And if we take a look at one of those briefly, let's take a look at our storm sewer parts list. And I've got structures in here. And within this structures list, I've got some beehive inlets, okay? And we get to specify different object styles on these things, different rule sets we can even apply, but we don't get to control the label that gets assigned to these. And it can vary quite a bit depending on what you're doing in a given project. Now there are some options where right inside the network properties, some of you might be familiar with this, you've got layout settings here. This applies to plan view, and I can choose a default structure plan label style and pipe label style. But again, it's every structure, every pipe gets the same one. Similar for profile, okay? And so this is a lot of what we had heard from folks is, I need more control on this. Well, you do have control, except you end up picking and clicking every part that you want. Or adding them all in there and then changing the label style, that sort of thing. And then when it comes to profile views, you have to do that for each and every profile view. So how does Label Genie work? Let's take a look at it. I'm going to launch Label Genie, and first we're going to do some labeling on our storm network in plan view. So on the first tab here, I choose my drawing and objects. I'm going to label the current drawing, but I could be browsing out to other drawings. Perhaps you have 20 different plan and profile sheets and you want to label those all this same way. We can load all of those right in here. We can limit them to layouts, viewports, you name it. And then over here we have the label type. Now those of you who are already using Label Genie, you'll see that this is a bit different. We've now added a view type option in here. So depending on the label type you choose, you'll have options for both plan and profile. And by the time this releases, there will also be section view as well on there. So I've got pipe network labels. Notice there's a variety of other label types in here. These have all been added recently as well, and will be in this release that comes out shortly. But our focus is on pipe network labels. We're going to choose plan view, and then the anchor object will be pipe networks. Obviously makes sense, okay? If I'm using something more universal like mText, I have a whole host of different objects to anchor to. Notice a lot of new ones we've added recently, points, blocks, you name it. Just about every Civil 3D and AutoCAD object is in here for you to attach labels to and even read data from to populate those labels with. So pipe networks, we're going to anchor to those. Now, what pipe networks? Now, there's a filter dialog box here where we can label only objects based on layer, based on object name, or in this case, by network. Now, if I wanted to choose and label just storm at this point, I could browse out here and choose that and include storm. Okay, if there's nothing in here, it'll grab every pipe network it finds in the drawing. I'll kind of show you that more global application at once. We'll start with just storm and plan for now. Then the anchor point for pipe networks, it's simply vertices because there isn't really anything else to label there. Now I go to the formatting tab. I showed you this in PowerPoint. A lot of these things don't apply to pipe network labels because why? Because a lot of that data is just kind of baked in there. We are going to have some options to be overriding those labels, but I'm not going to show you that today. What we do have down here is a style mapping dialog box. If I click on this, it opens that window you saw previously. Right now it's empty though. So here's how it works. You create style mappings in a similar way that you would create parts lists, except it's quite a bit easier because we start right with your entire catalog or all your parts lists. So if I click this button up here, what it's going to do is take all the parts lists from my drawing and populate that right into here. So I've got my storm, my sanitary, water, okay, however many parts lists, however you guys break yours out, all of that will write into here. So those part families as well as the part sizes will all populate in here. It's going to bring in the parts list description. So if you had an overridden name in your parts list from what was originally populated, it's going to also bring in the part catalog part size name. It's a combination of these two fields that allows it to find those parts in your drawing and then apply the label style that we assign here. So we're going to do plan view labeling. Now I can choose at the family level here, I can assign label styles to every part size at once. Or I can choose at an individual level, like for these existing ones, I can specify these different. And here it starts to illustrate the reason why we want to have different label styles. My existing RCP, okay, that gets a different label style. Perhaps it's italics, the text, or maybe it's a different font or something of that nature. You guys have your own style there. Now this isn't locked in to your parts list. Okay, you might have different templates that have different parts lists in them. You can load and create a single style mapping in this way. You can even customize stuff, adding new families, deleting particular sizes. But when we execute Label Genie, it's going to take everything in here, find those parts in the drawing, and then give it the label style we assign. So concrete pipe, I've got some of those assigned. Let's go to the Structures tab. I've got some beehive inlets. These all want to get storm plan, except some of the existing ones should get an existing label style. Now I've got some of my parts lists built where I've got both existing and proposed in the same part family. Obviously, you don't have to do it that way. A lot of different strategies on how to build out your catalog and your parts list. That's not necessarily the focus here today. Over here, I've got storm, plan, and these are going to get the same label styles as well. Flared end, and so on. Okay, so pretty simple. Now I set all that for my storm sewer parts list. So let's hit OK. Those label assignments are there. I hit add update labels. It says this will add 49 labels. I hit yes to this, and all the labels come in based on that mapping, right? So on my existing parts here, I'm seeing my existing style. So I have italics for that. And on my proposed parts, I have a different structure label style. Pretty straightforward. Let's run it again. Let's do the sanitary. Set a storm. We're going to grab sanitary. And again, we could do both at once. I'm just trying to kind of illustrate how you build this out. So sanitary will come into the style mapping. All this stuff saves here. So those styles I assigned here, everything still saves, okay? I'm going to go to my sanitary sewer now, though. We're going to give pipe label styles some similar styling here. And once you set this up, like I'm coming in here with a blank slate. Once this stuff is set up, everything, as I mentioned earlier, will save out to a template. So when you define these mappings, they're all done, they're ready to go. You can label every network in multiple drawings all at once, and I'll kind of do that at the end so you get a feel for it. Sanitary structures. Here, these need to be sanitary cleanout for plan view. I've got a unique style for that. These get sanitary manhole, and the existing ones get a existing style. So very intuitive, very easy to set up in this way. I'm going to hit OK to this. Okay, so I've got unique styles for my cleanouts versus my manholes, and then unique ones for existing versus proposed pipes and structures. I hit add. It's going to tell me 21 labels. I hit yes to this. Hit OK. And all those unique sanitary labels come in. If we go down to the end of the project here, here's some existing sanitary pipe. Notice it gave it a different style. Now, one of the great things about Label Genie is that it's dynamic. It doesn't just continue to dump labels in your drawing. And what I mean by that is if something changes and you run that label scenario again, for example, say this wasn't a cleanup, but it was instead a manhole. Let's swap this part instead for a manhole, okay? Now the label isn't gonna know the difference there, right? So you're swapping out many different parts, changing things, changing your part type. If that warrants a different label style, you have to go and delete all those labels and change them again. If I run Label Genie again, keep in mind, I already have those mappings for cleanouts versus manholes in here. I simply open this up. It's going to remember my previous settings. Hit add update labels. Hit yes. And now we'll see the label style change for my cleanout. That's my manhole label style versus my cleanout. Now, whatever the case is, you're switching those different part types. You simply run the Label Genie again, and it'll update that stuff accordingly. All right, let's keep building on this. And by building on this, I mean, we're going to run this some more. We're going to do it for profile view, but we're going to continue to build out our style mapping. I will address a couple questions as we're moving along here. A question about, can you add offset parameters on the pipe network labels? I don't have that in this build right here, but we're trying to think of a way to make that reasonable because the offsetting that you do could vary quite a bit, right? This one certainly wants to move over here. Okay, it kind of depends. We're looking at a way to kind of automate that in there. So yeah, looking to get something like that in there. Another question, can you have different label sets for different sheets, right? Can you organize it based on sheet? The quick answer is no, but let me explain. When you run Label Genie, that's one label scenario. You've got a set of styles, you've got settings, you've got filters to control what you're labeling. Okay, but if you have one type of sheet, say a sanitary and water set of sheets, and then you have another sheet where your storm is, for example, what you would end up doing is loading or creating templates like this, one for your storm scenario and the other one for your water and sanitary scenario. I'll show you kind of what that might look like later on as we finish out our style mapping. And one other questions about layers. Are the label layers controlled by the preset object layers, or are they preset pipe network layers? Right now it's deferring to the object layers that you have in your pipe networks. But we're looking at perhaps giving some control on that. I've shied away from it for now, and I guess here's the reason. Certainly appreciate any feedback. But you do have fairly detailed control on a given network on what layers the pipe objects land on, and then the labels themselves, they end up being controlled through your object layer settings. So if that's something you guys are really after, don't hesitate, let me know. But like a lot of other labels in Label Genie, you do have layer control, specifically layer override control, so it doesn't take your drawing settings. And so, so yeah, we can have that with pipe networks. Let's move on. Let's look at profiles. Profiles are often a bit more complex. We have a lot of different pipes and structures in one view, depending on how your sheets look. I've got some of those existing and proposed, both storm and sanitary. Maybe also show water in yours. It kind of depends. Let's go ahead and label these. I'm going to run Label Genie again. We'll start with our sanitary, but this time we're going to do profile. And when you select the profile option, you get a filter option in here. Because why? Well, plan view, it's like just the whole drawing. Profile view, you can have any number of profile view objects. So with this, I can again choose layering, object naming, sites, you name it, to control which profile views I'm labeling. Again, if I leave this empty, it's going to label every profile view in the drawing. I'm going to start with picking this one profile view here. Now you could do something like this, where you put an asterisk, or if you want to specify just that particular profile view, you just do that. You can always click on the check button here. It'll tell you what it found in the drawing or drawings. I'm going to hit OK. Onto the formatting tab and our style mapping. This time we're looking at sanitary again, but we're looking at profile view. And so we have control over profile as well. It should be profile and then the existing ones in an X profile style. Looking at our structures. I've got my sanitary structure profile style, different than my plan view. Same for the manholes, except for the existing ones, we want to give it an existing profile label style. Okay, so I've just got kind of a hypothetical setup here. What you guys do, think about how you would do it, right? How many different label styles do you have? All of that can get spelled out in here, so that when you run this in any other drawing, future projects, boom, it just takes what you've assigned and you're off and running. I'm going to hit add update labels, 21 labels. That always gives you a confirmation of what has happened. Labels added, 21 updated, labels deleted. Okay, so again, it has updating functionality. It doesn't just dump labels and then insert them on top of previous labels. It'll update, it'll delete them based on your settings. Okay, so again, similar kind of stuff, right? I've got unique labels for existing, my italics versus proposed, and these labels are for sanitary as opposed to storm. Because maybe my sanitary labels come down here, but my storm show up on the top, right? That requires, again, a different label style. Let's run this again, but let's do storm. Now you can pick in the drawing, or you can just type things out like this. This is a text-based field. It's not linked to the object. It's just text in there. And keep the same profile view. Then we can simply go to our profile views and set those. Looking at our structures, often the structures are a bit more complex. So for my beehive inlets, I've got a storm catch basin profile style. But for the existing ones, I use an existing profile style. You know, I've worked with a lot of companies over the years where we've tried to optimize and kind of simplify their styles. And oftentimes I'll see just dozens and dozens of pipe or structure labels to choose from. And I always kind of like try to find ways to eliminate that. And you can eliminate some of it certainly with some detailed catalog work in Part Builder. But sometimes at the end of the day, you just need a different style. And choosing those and remembering which one to use, that's some of the tedium that we're trying to eliminate here. So here is a storm manhole profile. And then these get the storm catch basin profile style. Now, one thing to mention while I'm in here, I clicked import catalog. Okay, that read everything from the parts list and brought it in here. Now, if you go and change your parts list, and then you come back to here, you have to click import catalog again, and it'll bring in any updates. Now, you could also delete any entries out of here that you wanted. And if the entry isn't found in here, what's going to happen is Label Genie will still label those parts, but it'll just take your drawing default. Flared ends, we'll give that a storm manhole profile style. And then the catch basins, storm catch basin, the profiles. Hope this looks kind of familiar to you guys. A lot of different label styles you might be working with your pipe networks. I'm going to hit OK to this. Back here, we simply click Add Update Labels, 39 labels, yes, and OK. And while we always run into some need for drag state, right, moving some labels around, like perhaps some of these pipe labels or different things like that, right? The point of having different label styles is so things drop in appropriately like this, right? I've got my storm labels more to the top side of the structures and my sanitary to the bottom. Maybe you anchor yours at the bottom of your profile view, all kinds of different options you can do with your label styles. The point is you have to manage that across a lot of different label styles. Here's those existing labels with the italics, okay? Now let's take this one step further, right? We've mostly built out our style mapping. So how would this work? You know, I don't want to have to do plan and profile and pick all that stuff one at a time. So how does this work? Well, let's go ahead and build ourselves a template so that we can run this in future drawings and in other projects, okay? So keep in mind, my style mappings have everything for my storm sewer, it has everything for my sanitary, okay? In fact, if you do this right in your own template, your DWT that you guys create new drawings with, this will save right into there, okay? So it'll save into the template, or we can save it externally like this, and I'm going to show you how we might do that now. So I'm going to save all my storm and sanitary labels for plan view, and I'm going to eliminate the storm filter here. Okay, so it's all plan pipe networks. I'm going to click up here in the label template option, click new file and click save, and this will be pipe networks plan. Hit save. Now let's also save a template for the profile option. Switch this to profile. Okay, all those same style mappings are here. And then if I come into here, do we want to filter based on just one profile view? No, we might want to be able to label a dozen profile views at once, either all within one drawing or spread across multiple drawings. So I'm going to eliminate that filter. And when I do that, if I click check in here, you see there's now actually 4 profile views found in the drawing. We're going to save this one out as well. We'll call it Pipe Networks Profile. Okay, so everything on these 2 tabs in Label Genie will save out to this template, with the exception of unique drawings. But all the other settings save so you can easily execute it. Those are saved out by default to a path I specify in the options. Okay, and this path you can, in fact, you can set it to a network location, so you can build out a variety of these templates, distribute those templates to all of your users. So all they have to do is pick from right here. It'll automatically load those and be available to everyone. Okay, so I've got those saved out. And by the way, what it saves, if I go look at this, it saves an LG template file. These, in fact, are just universal JSON files that saves out this text. You can edit them in Notepad. If there's mass editing, say you changed the name of some of your label styles and you didn't, maybe it was 100 different edits or something across those label style names. Instead of kind of picking through that style map, and you could come in here and do a mass find and replace and change your templates in that way. Okay, let's say this is a new drawing. Let's go and grab all these label styles. Let's delete them. Okay, I don't have anything labeled yet, right? And I've got multiple profile views. I've got, say, some storm laterals here. I've got plan view. I've got profile view to label. Maybe it's in this one drawing. Maybe it's spread across multiple drawings. Here's how it works when you have those templates saved out. You run Label Genie. What do I want to do? Now, you're likely going to have many, many other ones here. You've got surface spot elevations for your curb lines. Okay, all that stuff will show up here. I want to do Pipe Networks Plan View. So you select it, you click Load. Notice how that changed there. Make sure this is at vertices. And then you click Add Update Labels. This is going to do 70 labels at once for all of my plan views. There's all those unique styles for storm versus sanitary, existing versus proposed. What about my profiles? Same kind of thing. I load Label Genie again, select Pipe Networks Profiles, load that one. Okay. This is a beta build here, and something's not saving on that anchor point there. Okay. Now I run Add Update Labels. This is going to find 79 labels. Say yes to this. All 4 profile views at once, all with their unique label styles. And you continually run this over and over as you go and change things, right? If you swap out a particular part for something else, if that warrants a different label style, guess what? All of your different label styles are mapped in here. And you can do it for all your parts lists at once. Now, you don't have to have them all saved in there, okay? I imported my entire catalog, but you can delete some of these parts lists out. If I don't want that part of this template I'm saving, I can delete that one. Maybe I want to delete this one and just have my storm and sanitary. That's fine too. So that's a lot of what I wanted to show you guys today. Just a couple other announcements, then I'm going to go and get to some of these other questions that have come in. Some of you might be wondering, how do you get your hands on this? If you already own CIM Project Suite, you already have Label Genie. This update will be released in a few weeks, the pipe network labeling. So if you're current license holders, you just get the new installer and run it after the release, and it'll add this new build for Label Genie in there. If you don't own the CIM Project Suite, contact your CTC reseller. That's ATG in the US or SolidCAD in Canada. So with that, I'll wish you all a good day. Stay safe, stay well, and we will see you next time.